The homebuyer's journey can feel complex and overwhelming, particularly in a big city like Chicago. So, in today's video, I want to walk you through what it's like to actually buy a home in Chicago. From swiping on Zillow to handing over the keys, we're going to talk through some of the major things you should expect in the home buying experience. I'm Matt Thomas with Baird & Warner Real Estate in Chicago, and I help buyers, sellers, investors, and tenants accomplish their real estate goals in Chicago and all over the United States. I've helped hundreds of people accomplish their needs here in Chicago, and I've purchased a couple properties myself over the years. So I've had an experience or two with the home buying process, and it's fair to say that there are a number of different challenges that can present themselves throughout the process. And if you're new to buying a home, maybe it's your first time or it's your first time buying a home in Chicago, there are certainly some things that you should prepare for as you go through that. So the goal of this video is to talk through the no BS portions of the process that you should expect when buying a home in Chicago. And starting at the top, we're going to go through the fact that Chicago is a big city. I don't mean that in the sense that we have a lot of people. I mean, we do, but that's not what I'm talking about. We have 77, soon to be 78 neighborhoods in the city. And that's only if we're going by the officially identified version of Chicago. It doesn't take into account how many different slang versions of neighborhoods you're going to hear thrown around. There are an overwhelming number of options when you come to this city. So transparently, when I have new clients, particularly those who aren't from Chicago, call me and say, I want to buy a house in Chicago, the follow-up either needs to dive immediately into neighborhoods they understand and want to look at, or I start to lose hope about our likelihood of succeeding quickly. We can be successful, but it's going to be super complicated if we're starting with, I want to buy in Chicago. Some people are fortunate. They live here, they've lived here long enough or worked here long enough, they kind of have an idea of what neighborhoods they want to live in or purchase in. Others are truly starting with a blank canvas, and that can be really overwhelming. If you haven't answered questions about what public transit means to you or what kind of lifestyle you want, or if the lake is important to you, if highway access is important to you, all of these things kind of stack rank into how we prioritize neighborhoods. And then the secondary question becomes, what inventory type are you looking for? If you want to live in a high rise, I can't find that in every neighborhood in the city, but in some, it's probably the only or close to the only inventory on market. So all of these questions play into how big of a city Chicago is, and all of that complicates your search. And I'll warn you, as you get into a search, don't just start favoriting everything. It is not like Bumble over here. You don't need to be swiping right on every property to have this massive list of properties that might work for you. Process of elimination. You only need to buy one in most situations. So how do we swipe through the bulk of properties out there that aren't a good fit for you to find one that is? And that should be your priority at all times when you're going through this. The complicated nature of Chicago also highlights the importance of hiring a real estate professional. And okay, surprise, surprise, the real estate agent is saying you should hire a real estate agent, but you should. In Chicago, this is a complicated market. Take the neighborhoods out of it. Let's just assume you know the city well, you know exactly where you want to live down to a couple block radius, so we don't even need to worry about the neighborhoods. Now we're getting into the entire rest of the real estate process. Who's going to help you find those homes in an efficient way, particularly now when showing requests have to happen quickly, or you just missed the boat entirely on even touring a property, let alone making an offer on one. Who's going to do that for you in a full-time capacity? I mean, if you want to do that, go get a real estate license, or, I mean, at least anticipate this will become a full-time job for the foreseeable future. But you need somebody to help you find the property. When you do find it, you got to negotiate for it. Then we have to go through the actual process of doing your inspection, your condo review if it's a condo, getting you to the closing table. All of this takes time. And in my experience helps. If you work with somebody who actually knows what they're doing and can help you through that process, and oh, by the way, who's financially motivated to do it and you don't pay them, that's a really strong and beneficial process. So yeah, in the beginning, you're going to start with, look, identifying there's so many neighborhoods in the city. I'm trying to figure out where I want to live. Step two, call a real estate agent. They can help you with that conversation. They can ask you questions like I proposed earlier in this video to challenge you on identifying what neighborhoods might work for you, then move on to what inventory might work for you, and then move on to specific homes that will work for you, and eventually negotiate for the specific home that is right for you. One major benefit of connecting with an agent, particularly early in your search, is they will make you more efficient at searching. Let's be honest with each other. In many cases, the real estate agent isn't actually the one to find the property. You're the one laying in bed late at night, scrolling whatever's new. You're the one scrolling while you eat your cereal in the morning, scrolling while you're at lunch, scrolling while you're sitting in traffic, even though I strongly advise you don't do that. I'm not going to catch the property before you do in some cases. You're so hyperactive and you know instantly what you love. The odds are just stacked in your favor. You're going to find it quickly if you are searching. So, keeping that in mind, while I am always going to be sending you properties, wouldn't it be great if I gave you a better way to search? That's exactly the benefit of having a search app like Zenlist, where you can see properties that are coming soon, properties that are on market. You have instantaneous updates from the MLS, so you're not waiting for updates from me as your agent. I mean, hey, I got to be in my car for showing sometimes. That 45-minute delay might be enough time for you to see it before I send it to you, and that could be significant. So the benefit of partnering with an agent who uses technology, particularly technology around search apps, they can help you find properties faster than other people are finding them. And this is an important distinction, they'll help you avoid the lead trap that is Zillow and Redfin. When you click schedule a showing on Zillow, you end up coming to an agent like myself who pays for Zillow advertising so that we can work with you. You're getting your information out to an agent who's a stranger to then reverse prospect you and try to get you to work with them to buy a house. Just skip the whole thing. Download an app that you can trust. I can communicate with you directly on there if you want, or I'll just leave you alone and you can search on your own forever. But it's particularly powerful in the Chicago market. It's updated for a few others outside of Chicagoland. I strongly advise once you've got your focused area, you've got your agent you're going to partner with, now start ramping up on the actual search app so that you can search with more impact. When you are on the hunt, keep in mind that Illinois buyers have an incredible amount of protection throughout the purchase process. Eventually, you are going to find a home. You might fall in love right away, or you might be kind of on the line, but you're going to make an offer, it's going to get under contract, and you're going to proceed with the contract period. In Illinois, there are a number of different ways in which you can back out of that contract, particularly early on, without facing financial penalty. Now, I'm not advising you make rash decisions and just cancel them later. That's not at all what this is. But what it is to say is there are protections baked in the actual purchase contract that we sign here in Illinois that will make the buying process more friendly to you. It will make it easier for you to back out for things like maybe an unsatisfactory inspection, or if, goodness gracious, you lose your ability to get financing, you will not be held accountable to proceed with the sale. All of that is baked into the purchase contract, so we don't need to make revisions, we don't have to write in stipulations, you just are guaranteed those protections, and the Illinois purchase contract has more protections than many other contracts do. So take solace in knowing that as a buyer in Illinois, you have a lot of protection through the deal. And if you get into a contract and figure out for some reason or another that you don't want to or maybe can't proceed with the purchase, there are many points at which you can opt out of the deal without facing financial repercussions. It's not to say that that will happen in every circumstance, and we do hold earnest money for a reason. However, normally, if it's a reasonable circumstance and you follow the letter of the contract, you'll be pretty safe. If the protection of the purchase contract isn't enough for you, Illinois is also an attorney state. For some of you, that probably means nothing. You've never heard that term, you've never seen that term, particularly if you bought outside of Illinois. But here's basically what you get. An attorney review period comes with each purchase contract in the state of Illinois. You have the right and are very much encouraged by myself and other professionals to hire a legal representative to take you through that period. Their job is, well, pretty wide-ranging. They do everything from making small revisions to the purchase contract in the initial review period. They help draft any changes if you want to make inspection requests for updates or credit requests, what have you. They'll help make contract revisions. Let's say there was a situation where the property didn't appraise and we needed to revise purchase price or find an alternative mean. Your attorney would be there to help navigate that process with the other side of the engagement. So your attorney is your biggest advocate. They're there to make sure that you close successfully, that the property comes with clear title, and that you avoid as many headaches as possible throughout the transaction, And as we discussed earlier, you know exactly where those opt out periods are for your earnest money so that you don't get too far down the pike if you're not going to close and face some kind of financial liability. So, yes, in other states, often title offices or even real estate agents will shoulder the responsibility of navigating the legal boundaries of the contract. Here in Illinois, we take that extra step. We have attorneys on both sides for the seller and the buyer. They're paid only at closing. So if you want to hire them and we don't close, it's not a fee that you pay. It's only when we successfully get to the table. And they do add a significant layer of protection on top of the fact that it's already a buyer-friendly place. Once you're under contract, we're in our attorney review period. The very first few days, your attorney's going back and forth on maybe some minor contract revisions. The first step you're going to do is inspect the property. A home inspection, I think, has gotten sort of confusing in modern times, at least the expectations for what it is. Many people think of a home inspection as your checklist of items you want the seller to replace. I hate to break it to you, but that's really not what it's for. You're buying, unless it's new construction, a used home. So it's not fair to expect that the seller is going to hand it over to you in like new condition. You're buying a used item. It's going to be lightly lived in or at least used. So things like chips and paint or some light scratches on the floors or whatever it might be, dirt, grime, wear and tear, that's not inspection items. Light bulbs being out, doorknobs being loose, you name it, not inspection items. Inspection is meant to focus on items that are failing to perform their material function. So let's use the example of you go to turn the AC on, you fire it up, and all of a sudden you realize the condenser doesn't work and the AC isn't operating. That's a great inspection item. You should be able to get the AC repaired or money to repair it yourself after closing because you were under the impression when you made the offer that the air conditioning was in a working condition. That's entirely different than coming in and saying, oh, we noticed that the floors are scratched when we made the offer, but now that we've done the inspection, we want money because the floors are damaged. No, you made your offer and you knew the floors were damaged. So you already took that under consideration. That's not a new material defect. And furthermore, it's wear and tear. The floors are still performing their function, which is to be a floor. Moving past the material defect side of things, Illinois is very clear that age is not a reason to get credit dollars or something replaced under the purchase contract. So if your HVAC is 35 years old, well past sort of that like standard replacement time frame, but still operating, there's no reason for us to give you credit or replace it. It's still working. So just because something is super old, you cannot request credit or repair for it. Or, I mean, you can, you're just not supported in the contract to get that money. I will say a home warranty goes a long way. If you're worried about failing items, particularly things that are aging, get a home warranty, get a little bit of protection for yourself in the event that they do fail. Once you make it through inspection, you've negotiated with your attorney any items you want repaired or credit dollars for. Now you start proceeding to closing, and we're going to start to see some final closing documentation. This is the point where many buyers get a little bit of sticker shock. I often see buyers forget that you are going to have 3 to 5% in closing costs on top of your down payment. So when they give you those final closing documentation numbers, they're going to include things like loan origination fees, title fees, and everything else that is baked into what you owe to actually make it to the closing table. So don't forget to budget for these things up front. If you're putting 10% down on a property, you need to make sure that you have 13 to 15% ready to go so you can cover everything from inspection to appraisal to attorney fees to title fees, the whole gambit of items. Here in Chicago, we have something called transfer tax, where you're actually going to have to pay the transfer stamps on your transaction. And for buyers, 0.75% of the overall transaction total. So you're going to pay tax, you're going to pay closing costs, and you need to keep that in account. Plus, you obviously want a reserve fund for when you first move in. So again, just keep this all in mind when you're budgeting, and don't be surprised if you see these numbers prior to closing. If you want to avoid some of this sticker shock later in the deal, ask your lenders for some estimates up front in the transaction. Many lenders provide this without even asking, but when you make your offer, when you get your pre-approval, also get a cost breakdown of what they anticipate you're going to need on closing day so that you can prepare mentally for the amount of money you're going to have to transfer. And hey, we made it this far. Now we celebrate. You go to a title office here in Illinois. Believe it or not, it is old school. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Have to go sit at a title office, sign the documents physically. Your hand's going to be sore. But then you get keys, and it's a great celebration. You finally made it through the home buying process. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Admittedly, we did not touch on every single step you're going to go through the process, but hopefully this covered the big ones that you're going to face, especially if you're a new buyer navigating the Chicago market for the first time. If there's anything I missed, or if you have specific questions about buying a home, feel free to schedule time on my calendar. The link is in the description below. I would love to connect and help you with your search. If you found this video useful, send it to somebody else you know who would find use in it as well. The reason for making this and posting it here is hopefully to give value to you and anybody else who's looking to buy a home in Chicago. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I release new real estate content every single week, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future. Thanks so much.